What is up, everybody, and welcome. It is currently 2:59, and I'm going to give people like another minute or two to roll in and find their way into the live stream. If you're joining us from within the Indian River School District, welcome. I'm Jeff. Most of you all know me. If you're joining from outside of the IRSD, that's a picture of me, and I'm an instructional tech specialist serving the Indian River School District. So I'm going to pause for about another minute to see if anybody else jumps on, and then we'll get right into session 1 of AI in the K-12 classroom. What is AI and why now? Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and get started then. So I want to first give everyone a little bit of lay of the land. We're here on YouTube Live. There's a chat feature that I got my eye on. Any questions or things that surface during this webinar, please feel free to leverage the chat, and it will be stored and played back for anyone who goes back to watch this after. If you're watching this after the initial live stream, so glad that able to provide this webinar, and let's get right to it. A little bit about myself. As you can see, I'm an instructional technology specialist for the Indian River School District. We are in Southern Delaware. If you're not aware, if you're from within the IRSD, again, welcome. We are about 11,000 students in our student population, and we have just over 1,000 educators, paraeducators, and administrators who serve those 11,000 students across 16 different school sites. We have one alternative site for students with special needs. Shout out to Howard T. Ennis. We also have a K-8 arts school called Southern Delaware School of the Arts. So shout out to the SDSA Dragons if anyone's joining from SDSA. And then we have 7 elementary schools, 3 comprehensive middle schools serving 6th grade through 8th grade, and then 2 high schools serving students in grades 9 through 12. We also, and I want to shout out Lord Baltimore Elementary for their second Blue Ribbon School award. They won their second one this past year. Their first was in 2001. So that brings our district total to 12 Blue Ribbon schools. So you got to shout out the amazing work that we're doing in the Indian River School District, and specifically kudos to LB. So that's a little bit about our school district. Myself, this is year 16 in education for me. I've spent 9 of those here in the Indian River School District. I spent about 9 in the classroom serving students as a science teacher, and then now the past 6 as an instructional coach. So we'll go ahead and get rolling. The format for this series is going to be, right now you're joining either live or in the future. It's a 30-minute webinar where you'll get some FaceTime with me. I'll share some interesting things with you. And then after that 30 minutes on our district's instructional technology YouTube channel, there's going to be a form shared with you. And I want to get, this is open to anybody in the world of education who's thinking about AI, who's been wondering about AI, who's maybe generative AI curious and wants to have a little bit bigger framework from which to tackle this disruptive tech. So as part of that, there's a Google form that I'm going to share later within the chat, and I'm also going to put it in the comments below this video, where I'm going to ask just a couple of questions about this initial session, and then also to see, if there's some questions that could be answered in future sessions. And then throughout that's all going to be in a activity and resource guide. And then embedded throughout that activity and resource guide will be opportunities for anybody either within the IRSD or outside of the IRSD to interact with each other, learn from each other, and listen to each other, because all of this has gotten very big very quickly. So I'm going to pause for a moment and let you read the question on the screen. And go ahead in the chat, if you have ever used AI in your personal life, go ahead and drop a response in there. And for most people, the answer to this question is, I'm not sure. And I'm here to tell you that you probably have if you've used something like Siri on your iPhone, or if you have a smart home speaker like an Alexa, or even if you've used predictive text to help you finish an email or in a Google Doc or any sort of spelling autocorrect feature, you have used artificial intelligence. When it comes to our profession of education, the next question, have you ever used AI in your professional life? And again, when I've launched this and run this session live with folks, the answer is, well, no, I've never used ChatGPT. But if you've used certain technologies, chances are there's some aspect of artificial intelligence within that platform that you may or may not know about. So in our district, here are just 4 examples of technology platforms that we use in our core content areas, like Achieve 3000 for secondary literacy as a supplemental RTI solution. There's aspects of artificial intelligence active in that platform. Same with a similar tool for math called Mathia that we use through Carnegie Learning. There's aspects of artificial intelligence in that platform. Same with M-Class, same with Dreambox. And those are 2 different RTI platforms that we use in our elementary environment for RTI. So AI is there. And before we go any further talking about AI, I want to share this graphic and this definition. So the definition of artificial intelligence is the theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks normally requiring human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, learning, decision-making, and natural language processing. So thinking about how I've used AI personally, I use speech to text all of the time. And that is an example of natural language processing. So you might see on that graphic in the lower right offshoot, it says natural language processing, right? That is one area in which I've used it in my personal life. Another area which I didn't realize was and I don't know if you've bought a car or been in a newer vehicle in the past 4 or 5 years, the lane departure assist feature. That's an example of computer vision, right? So there's a camera on your dashboard. If you're unlucky enough to have had to replace a dashboard like I have, you'll notice that, man, that cost has increased because of the technology behind it. Those cameras use computer vision to help support you and maintain that safe driving position. So much like the lane departure assist, some people love it. I love it. I've got 2 little girls who are typically behind me. So if I'm a little distracted and lack of sleep, it's, that helps me keep it between the lines. There are other people who are driving purists who don't want the support of the computer and the machine learning, and that's fine too. So I think just that that example in itself kind of helps show you that AI is not just generative AI, like the chatbots that have been in the news recently, but it's a much broader arc of technologies that's already in our day-to-day lives. So that brings me to the big one for us in education, which is ChatGPT. We are 10 days shy of ChatGPT's first birthday, which is wild to think about. ChatGPT only took 5 days to get to 1 million users, which is pretty unheard of. And I'll show some comparisons in a moment. And currently, the weekly user count as of, I believe, last week, they had upwards of 100 million users on their platform each week. To put that into context, it took Airbnb 2.5 years to get to 1 million users. It took Netflix 3.5 years to get to 1 million users. It took Spotify 5 months. It took ChatGPT 5 days to get to 1 million users. And chances are those users are sitting in your classroom. They're sitting in my PD sessions. So we've got to really start talking about this technology really quickly. So what ChatGPT is, it is a genre of artificial intelligence, and it's a product. I'm sorry, let me clarify. It is a product in the broader natural language processing genre, and ChatGPT has similar analogs. And in the resource guide that you'll get when you fill out the form at the end of this webinar, you'll see a few different examples, and you'll be encouraged and guided through using a few different of these AI generative chatbots. So ChatGPT has been in the news. It is a generative pre-trained transformer, which in lay speak means a very simple definition is a chatbot that allows a user to ask a question in plain language and get a response in a way that's similar to how a human would reply. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in and demonstrate ChatGPT live. Because if you haven't seen it, it's pretty wild. So in my previous life, I was a physics teacher. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT to write me a lesson plan. So let me get on that. Make me a high school physics lesson on projectile motion that is, 90 minutes. Yeah, let's go 90 minutes. So you can see, if you have not yet seen ChatGPT in action, it's kind of mesmerizing the first time you see it in action. And for those of you who have seen this and used it before, you'll understand that there are going to be some aspects in which I can and should revise this lesson plan. I'm not going to ask ChatGPT to write this lesson plan and then go teach it tomorrow. There's going to be some sanding and polishing, but the majority of that lift has been done, which is pretty phenomenal. I could also ask it to, you'll notice that it's got some verbiage in there like the TPACK framework. Let's say I want to remove that, okay? So I told it to get rid of all mentions of TPACK, and then it did that. So again, this tool has transformed how teachers can plan, how students can generate things, and really has opened up a massive, massive world of possibility in education. All of this webinar, all of this, I'm jumping back to our slides presentation now, and all of this was catalyzed by an email that hit my inbox from a teacher up at Sussex Central High School. He teaches IB English. His name's Joe Macaluso. Shout out to Joe Mac if you're watching. And the subject line was dreaded AI. And his ask was, what is our district going to do about this? And I sat and I wrestled with that for a minute because I had no good answer for him. I had a lot of questions, And a lot of other folks that I spoke with had the same questions. Preliminarily, as an instructional tech coach, I see a lot of potential benefit from this. I see a lot of drawback as well. And it made me feel a certain way. So on these slides, there is a link to a Padlet activity. These slides and this link are both in the resource guide, which will be available to you if you fill out the survey and the Google form at the end of this webinar. And I'm going to share with you some initial impressions of people who've already gone through this professional learning. This is actual teacher responses from within our school district in a PD day that we held this past October. So it was October 13th. And a lot of teachers can see some benefit here, but a lot of people have questions about academic integrity, and rightfully so. And then some really, really poignant and also comical responses for how this makes teachers and educators feel. And I love this one, tinfoil hat vibes, because it's truly jaw-dropping when you see these types of tools in action, and it really kind of had an exciting yet like nervous, apprehensive energy to it. And for me, that's kind of where we still are. So channeling that nervous, apprehensive energy, channeling the asks of our staff about what are our plans for using this technology in the district, I started doing some research of my own this summer. One of the most useful resources that I found was this document from the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Educational Technology. And their main three takeaways were, number one, was when we think about AI, specifically generative AI, but also all AI more broadly, we need to make sure that humans are in the loop and we're not thinking about these tools replacing educators. Another major takeaway that they put in this report is to inform and involve educators and to prioritize building trust with educators. And lastly, to work with constituents to develop guidelines and guardrails around the use of artificial intelligence, whether it is generative AI, like I demonstrated with ChatGPT as an example, or whether it's the adaptive artificial intelligence within a specific tech tool or platform that your district is already using. How are we getting to know that as educators so that we ensure that humans are at the center of decisions being made in education? So, in addition to those three major takeaways, these 7 recommendations for AI in education were outlined in that report. And what we did as a Department of Instructional Technology locally was we thought about the question posed by Joe Macaluso was, what is the district's plan for this? So what we did was we went to the source. For our context, the source is our district's 5-year strategic plan. And what we did was we looked at the pillars of that strategic plan and we said, okay, here are the most logical connections from the recommendations to our strategic plan. So within the IRSD, if you're watching this, this is the purpose of the webinar and all of the work that I'm going to share with you through this series. Number one, we want to align AI models to a shared vision for education. For us, that's that. It's the strategic plan. Number two, it's to inform and involve educators, which part of it is this webinar, and then another part of it is going to be the work that you're asked to complete within your departments or your PLCs. And then lastly, it's to collaboratively develop guidelines and guardrails that come from you all as the practitioners within our district that align to the strategic plan. So if you're coming in from outside of the Indian River School District, this is kind of our vlog. This is our journey. And if you want to join up and watch and learn some more alongside us, that's great. We welcome you. And that's kind of the purpose for opening this up to the broader public. So our end goal within the Indian River School District. Again, keeping that strategic plan document in the forefront of our mind. The end goal is to provide Indian River School District leadership and administrators with practical guidance from staff, students, and the community on how artificial intelligence fits into a broader academic integrity policy for the schools. To rephrase that and summarize, we need teachers' input. We need students' input. These webinars and the resources shared within are going to be my way of collecting those things from people within the Indian River School District, as well as people outside the Indian River School District, to ensure that what we're doing is aligned to our internal values, and again, provide a template and framework for other school systems who may be embarking on this journey as well. The next steps are going to be to continue to have webinars like this with educators. Whether those educators are in the Indian River School District or from outside, we want to involve and inform you about various AI models, their functions, and encourage safe exploration by you, the educators, and your students. Because let's face it, the kids are using it. We need to get teachers up to speed and get them exploring as well. And our end goal, again, to reiterate, we hope in the Indian River School District to have a collective log of use cases, of do's and don'ts, best practices, and connect them where they make sense to our academic integrity policy, as well as our responsible use policy internally. So, we're coming up on 30 minutes, believe it or not. And what I want to do now is I want to showcase the activity guide as well as share out what response opportunities there are. So I am going to drop in the chat right now the link to the Google form. And once you complete this Google form, you'll be able to, sorry, multitasking is hard, folks. Once you complete this Google form, there will be a success, you've successfully completed the form. You'll be able to click a link and then make a copy of what I'm about to show you. So I'm going to show you first, and then I'll put the link in the chat, and then I'll also put the link underneath the video in the comments. So let me go ahead and jump in. So if you're familiar with Google Docs, what I've done is created a resource guide. And it's got two parts. It's got guided exploration up here at the top, and it's got resources here at the bottom. The guided exploration section is designed for you as professionals to work through on your own, okay? I encourage you to share the copy that you make with other members of your either grade level team, your department, or your building leadership team, okay? And you'll see when you click the caret, you'll see a drop down, and it gives you step-by-step instructions on what I think and what most of the literature and resources and tips that I've found have shown is to learn AI through doing. So the guided exploration section has an engage section, a reflect section, as well as a sharing section. Okay, so for those of you joining us from outside the Indian River School District, you'll be able to kind of get a sneak peek through some of these lenses to see what our teachers are saying and doing and how they're innovating using artificial intelligence. And if you're within the Indian River School District, you are really leading the way for others to learn about this technology and how it can impact and transform their practice. So what I'm asking for anyone watching this webinar, whether live or after the fact, to do is to go through the guided exploration and then submit a short form that explains what you kind of took away and what your overall impressions of generative AI are currently. That is the guided exploration section. The next section is a resource section. So first and foremost, I'm all about transparency. I've included a link to the slides for this webinar If you click that, you'll be able to view it and click through any of the links within the slides. And then I've also curated a list of blog posts, podcasts, white papers, anything you can think of that could be helpful for teachers and people within education systems, administrators, paraeducators, superintendents, assistant supers, anybody who is interested in this technology and its use in the classroom. I highly encourage you to dive into these resources. When you look at the resources, they're broken down kind of by genre or topic, direct links to the sources as well as citations and credits. I really encourage you to check out IRSD's AI and Education resource page. They put together about a week before I launched this webinar series. This is as of November the 7th, November the 8th. They just launched their AI Guidance for Schools toolkit, and that is linked on the AI in Education resource page. I highly encourage you, if you're an instructional tech coach like myself, dive in and get people above you, beside you, and all around you involved in having these conversations. So last but not least, big picture K-12 future planning. That to me is where it goes. Like ChatGPT, Bing, Bard, all of these tools are going to be here, and the marketplace is exploding. I was in the Connect chat room through IRSD, and I had at least 8 new generative AI tech tools dropped in a thread. And as a tech coach, I thought, oh my goodness, it's coming. So before we jump in and think of all these incredible, amazing tools and what they can do, we need to have a roadmap. We need to have guidance, and we need you, the teachers, to be the ones to help us develop that so that people in my position and above know what we can provide to our students and our staff that is safe, that is engaging, and that helps accelerate learning. So with that, I'm going to go back to my slides and then share out my sincerest thanks. If you've stuck around, I see a few people on the live stream now. That's fantastic. I thank you so much for joining me. If you found this webinar useful, beneficial, please, by all means, share with your friends, share with your department. I said I was going to drop a link to the Google form for you in the chat. There it is. You'll also be able to see it in the comments underneath this video. And thanks so much for hanging out with me for 30 minutes. I really cannot wait to continue collaborating. Our next webinar in this series is going to be centered on safety, specifically student safety and data privacy, as well as intellectual property. If you want to learn more, if you want to jump in on that call, if you want to jump in on that webinar or watch it on demand, subscribe to this channel. You'll get alerts. And there's also a question in the Google form, and I will send out an update when I have a date for that, as well as like a more clear picture. So thank you for everything you do within the Indian River School District. If you're outside of the Indian River School District, thank you, and have a fantastic lead up to the rest of your week. Cheers.